Good evening and welcome to What's Your Story? Tonight's episode is Gone Too Soon. It is the story of a young girl's shocking and untimely death, a story of unimaginable grief mixed with unfathomable joy, a story of the man who was at the center of it all, and a story of the man who has not shared his true feelings about that event until now. My guest is Joe Appello, former coach of the varsity girls basketball team at Immaculate High School in Danbury. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Pleasure.
November 19th, 1990 is the day when your life changed forever. What happened that day, Joe?
What happened that day, Jim, was that was my, I believe, seventh season at Immaculate Girls Coach. And I had come from Brookfield where I had gone. I graduated from Brookfield. I was teaching phys ed there. I got talking to one of the girls from Immaculate as we played them that year. And she said, you know, we need a coach, blah, 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 whatever. So I went over there and I got started at Immaculate. Every year, we got better and better. And and it was a great coaching situation. The kids at Immaculate were fantastic. Catholic school, awesome families. Kids were, smart. All the kids there were smart. You didn't have good grades or you weren't an academic student, you wouldn't get in there. It's as simple as that. No matter, you could be Bo Jackson, but if you have the grades, you're not getting in there. So we had great kids, great attitude. It was a great coaching situation for me. Every year we had gotten better and better, and that particular day was we were pretty poised to have a good year. I thought that we were coming together every year. We had make the state tournament, the league playoffs, and now we were coming to a season where everyone was experienced, had a really good team coming in there. So we practiced on Monday of Thanksgiving week is when we start. And the way I ran the practice was 2 to 4, I'd have the freshman JV come, which is more of a tryout, because those are kids you don't really know. New kids coming in, so you really get them. The second part of practice, the 4 to 6, was for junior seniors. And that's basically a practice, not as opposed to a tryout, because you knew the kids and you wanted to get going the first day and get it on. Well, a few minutes into the practice, at the 4 o'clock practice, after the freshmen and sophomores had gone, my JV coach, Bill Gannat at the time, great coach, said to me, you got to go check out one of our players who's not feeling well in the hallway. And my first reaction was, well, why don't you do it? I'm trying to run. I got 20 kids in here. I'm trying to get a practice going. I know, you better go look at her. So I went in the hallway and I looked at her, and it was Patty Lavolsi, who was a junior. And she was pale, her lips were white, and her pupils were dilated. I was like, oh my God. One of the other girls, Jessica Bonner, was a lifeguard, and she said, we better start CPR. So we called 911 right immediately. We started CPR, and within, it seemed like less than a minute, the paramedics were there. And I remember it so vividly, like it was yesterday. And they put they shot her with adrenaline and put the electrodes on her, no response. And then they took her away in a gurney, and it's just, I don't know if I'm going to go too detailed on this,
yeah.
But okay.
But they took her away.
They took her away,
yeah.
and now she went to the hospital. Now,
yes.
Meanwhile, all the other girls are frantic. Their best friend is down, and they're
yes.
like, what's going on? And
yes.
like, I don't know. So we had to get them sequestered into the locker room and kind of like calm them down because their minds are going crazy. And I went to the hospital with my JV coach and one of the fathers, and we went to the hospital. And we waited, and she didn't make it, which was, terrible. Now the rest of the girls went to one of the other girls' houses to wait, to see what was going on. And I had to go from there to the house and tell the kids that.
Joe, what were you feeling that day, Joe, when you heard that the young lady had passed?
It was just total shock. It was just like, it can't be real. It can't be happening. I mean, the girl's, she's 16, 17, she's almost 17. She had just ran cross country. She had a physical. She was totally clear to play. And how could this happen to us or her? And the whole thing was just not real. So Immaculate, the amazing place that it is, or was, it still is, they handled it so well. They had a priest there. They had the principal, Bob Gerwin, who was like an all-time legend. The guy was the greatest guy I ever heard as a principal. Everybody prayed, and we're together, and we handle it as best as you can,
And this is the week before Thanksgiving.
This is the Monday of Thanksgiving week, yeah. So now, for all that happened, I had to go to the parents' house, to her house, and talk to the mom and dad, which was awful. What do you say? I just said, I'm sorry. Could I have been quicker? Anything else we could have done? But the reality, it wasn't anything. It was just, it was a congenital heart failure brought on by puberty was the medical terms. And
did her parents have any inkling before you arrived to tell her?
The parents were at the hospital right away.
Oh, they were there.
They knew, yeah. But then I went there just as a courtesy or whatever they call it, and just to talk to them and kind of grieve together. And the sad part was that her brother had died of the same exact thing 4 years earlier at 16 also.
The exact same
illness or affliction or whatever. Yeah, in the house though. He had got up in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom and just collapsed and passed. But as far as the parents go and the family, the doctors, I guess I had told them that there was a minimal chance of it happening again, and that you have to live your life type thing. The parents like, yes, we do. And all the kids were athletes. I mean, it was like the perfect Catholic family. They were fantastic. They would go to the games, they had all the Catholic uniforms on, little ducks in a row, walk in, they do their homework, cheer for their sisters, and it was amazing. And that particular day, all the kids, after that happened, all the kids had to stop playing competitive sports.
In her family?
In her family, yeah, just in case, that would happen again, or.
Could you tell us what kind of person Patty was?
She was the sweetest, nicest 4.0 student. Average athlete, though. I mean, she wasn't like a superstar athlete. I don't know how much playing time she would have got as a junior. She would have played, but, depending on how she progressed. But she wasn't one of the main clogs of our team, as per se. We, like I said, we had a lot of talent. But she was just an amazing individual, amazing teammate, amazing player to coach, and the kids loved her. I mean, nobody... Not a bad thing to say about her. She was just a beautiful girl, beautiful family,
How did the girls take her passing their teammates?
It was tough. I mean, there's that grieving period, and everybody grieves differently. Something like that happens. There's no textbook that you open up and say, this is what you do or don't do. But we had to deal with it, One of the things that was amazing about the situation is that Patty had an older sister, Beth Ann, who was all-state for me 2 years previous, and so she had stopped playing the day that Patty passed. Younger sister, Teresa, stopped playing. She was playing JV. And then there was another one, Megan, who was in 8th grade, was like watching Michael Jordan in the parochial league. This girl was fantastic. And unfortunately, all the kids had to stop playing just for the fact that, God forbid, anything else would have happened to any of the kids. And that was a very, very bad thing because the kids loved basketball. They were all good at it. And Beth Ann, like I said, was playing Division III University of Scranton. And even though she was 19 at the time, she stopped playing just in case of any kind of medical issue. And then we also had our season was about to start. So, all those dynamics. So we had to go through the wake, the burial, and all that. And for me as an individual, Coaching girls and women's basketball is tough for a male. Not as bad. It's worse now than it was back then. You got to watch everything you say or do, because people can accuse you of all different things. I was never a physical guy like that, but after that, hugging and showing affection was more natural for me. Was something that it was genuine. It always has been and always will be. But then I had no fear of doing it, after that, because I was just like, okay, these are your kids, and. It was something we had to go through, and everyone handled it. It was handled, I think, as best as possible at that situation. I mean, what do you do?
Joe, you buried it inside of you.
Yes.
You're here tonight to talk with us about that. Yeah. Why did you bury it, Joe? And why are you telling us tonight?
How else do you deal with it? You know what I mean? Do you cry every day? It's something that you have to go on. Life goes on. As terrible as that sounds. You have to continue, and I always wanted to tell the story or talk about it, but I didn't have the means or the situation to do that, and then, this came about, and I thought it was a good time to do that, even though it was like 23 years later. I basically buried it, kept it inside me, and I didn't. After coaching there for another year or so, I removed myself. I was out of the area with us, so I was kind of like away from that. I wasn't at Immaculate anymore, I think, so I wasn't a situation where it would constantly hit me or come up again. It was just something that I just dealt with.
Did other things and situations bring it up in your mind more than other times, like Thanksgiving?
No, not too much that, but sometimes I would see coaches and players, together, and it would bring back that, But in addition to that, it was also the great memories of coaching the girls there at Immaculate, which were amazing kids. So that would service itself once in a while, I go watch high school games myself, or see that, or I see a coach player relationship or rapport that I think how it should be, how it is. I would look at that and notice that more.
So Joe, from that day to this one, did you share your feelings of how deeply you felt and how deeply buried it was inside of you to anyone?
Not really, Jim, because there wasn't anyone to share with. You know what I mean? I had done some various things after I quit coaching, and then I was kind of removed from the coaching world, so I wasn't on the scene anymore. And then 11 years ago, I moved up here to Farmington, and no one knows who I am or what I did or didn't do or, what I went through. Nobody had any reason to know that, so unless I ran into somebody that knew me as a former coach, but that really hasn't happened, so.
What impact did Patty's passing have on your team, Joe?
Well, like I said before, we had to start the season, and we had to start right at that. I think we had the funeral and the wake that Friday and Saturday, and then we started back on Monday again, so it was basically a week off. And we had to go, and I just tried to keep the kids focused and try. It's hard to say not bring it up, but every time you brought it up, it would have been emotional for everybody. So we just continued to work hard, and we had a tremendous season. We ended up.
Tell us about that season, Joe.
Oh my God, it was magical. It was. We were undefeated. At one point, we were 15-0, and the way it was back then, we had. Immaculate was on one side, and the bigger schools, the WCC was called Western Connecticut Conference. The bigger schools were on one side, and the smaller schools were on the other side. The bigger schools you play once, and the teams on your side you play twice. And at that time, Jen Rosati, who we all know, was a junior at New Fairfield High School, and they were good because of her. And they had a great coach, Joe Russo, and they had a great program. And we ended up playing, at one point in time, we were 15-0, they were 15-0, and we had to meet in New Fairfield. And one of the best stories I ever tell is that going up to the game, Fairfield has a big, long hill to go up to the gym. And I'm sitting there in the front, and all of a sudden it's quiet. And I'm like, what the heck? They're all holding hands praying. Then you start going, we want Rosati. We want Rosati. I'm like, hey, easy, easy. We're going to get her going. He's going to be And we got there, and we ended up beating them by 13.
Wow.
And it was so loud that you take your point guard, I'm yelling in her ear instructions. You couldn't, hand signals, you couldn't hear. It was amazing. So we ended up finishing out the season undefeated. So we were 20-0. They were 19-1. Now we have the WCC playoffs. Ironically, it was held at Brookfield, where I was from. And we beat Newtown the first game, and now we were playing Massac at the second game, the championship game for WCC.
Yes.
And Massac was coached by Dave Strong, who was a legendary figure in the annals of girls basketball. He had like 400 wins, big gargantuous guy, tremendous coach. I mean, the best in the state at that point. So they hold the ball against us, and they beat us 26-25 in overtime.
Oh, boy.
And there was no shot clock back then, so there was not much I could do. I was like, stay back. And so we lose the game by a point. And he was brilliant because that's the only way they could beat us. He knew that we were better than them. And so now we lost the league championship game. We went to the state tournament. Now we're 20-0, and New Fairfield's 19-1. So we're 1, they're 2. So we're on a collision course for the state finals, if that happens. And it sure does. We beat everybody handily, so do they. I know their team almost as good as I know my team. I've seen them play. I know all their players. And we play at Central Connecticut State, the state championship on a Saturday. And the way we played that was they had Jen Rosati and Krista Millar. Krista Millar was a senior, Jen was a junior, the two best players. And I concocted a defense where we put the emphasis on those two and make someone else beat us. Well, sure enough, this girl came off the bench named Stephanie Wanzer, had 18 points. I don't know if she even played or scored in the state tournament up to that point. And she ends up having 18 points. And they beat us 64-63 in the state final. So we lose. We end up being 24-2. Lost 2 games by 2 points, the state finals and the league championship. So it was an amazing, magical season.
So did the team, you feel that Patty's passing brought the team together in a way that it might not have?
I believe so, Jim. You can't measure what it did or what it didn't do.
Yes.
we didn't bring it up too much because I was afraid of the emotional side of it, where it could backfire, where you talk a major name and they lose focus.
Yeah.
But it was dedicated to her. It was an amazing season from start to finish.
Joe, how did Patty's passing change you?
Well, one thing, Jim, in life is that no guarantees in life. Everyone thinks they sign this contract to live to 80, 85, 75, whatever it may be. There isn't. And God calls your name. You're going. And why does someone like Patty, who's a beautiful, vibrant young lady, pass, and these other people who are totally bad or whatever stay to live to be 75? It's not fair. Life's not fair, So I think my outlook was like, with no guarantees, you really have to enjoy yourself, live life to the fullest as much as you can, appreciate what you have. You really do. Everyone goes through ups and downs, handles grief differently, but it's part of life.
What would you say to some coach or some person watching this program tonight who's been carrying something like you? What advice would you give them?
I would just say, Jim, love your kids, love your players. I go to games now, and I see good and bad. I'll see coaches that I don't think do a nice job with positively motivating their players or teaching them the game the right way, And then there's the opposite. There are good coaches out there, obviously. But today, I think today's society is so hard to coach with all this AAU and parents' involvement and camps and all these things. There's all different. The kids are getting hit from all these different what do you call it, leaderships or variables, to how they should be coached. Whereas back in the day, when you had your team, you had your season, and you might have a little summer basketball league, but there wasn't AAU focus there is now. I mean, the kids aren't playing like most of the kids in America played one or two other sports, which I think is important to well-round yourself. If you're going to specialize and play basketball and get that Division I scholarship or play at the next level, that's one thing. But a lot of kids don't, and I think we lose focus that basketball is a great game. It should be fun. You want to win. Who doesn't want to win? And it kills you when he's saying, I want to win. If you don't want to win, you're a loser. And nobody wants to be a loser, So you have to play the game hard, good fundamentals, play it the right way, and have fun with it. It's not a job in high school.
Why did you love it, Joe?
Because of that. Because I felt that I could, as a coach, positively impact these kids in no other way. Your teachers and things like that. But, you have a class 1 hour a day. But with these kids, you're with them 2 hours a day, 5-6 days a week, 20 games, maybe more if you have a good season. And you have the greatest influence on them, hopefully, positively, where, you have a good effect on, positive, impact on their life. Myself, growing up, I was a good athlete, but not a great athlete. And I had average coaches, And I remember even the average ones, how they affected me, positively and negatively. And I always wanted to be that coach that I wanted to have as a player.
Joe, tell our viewing audience something positive that came out of that whole tragic event.
I would just say live life to the fullest. Take nothing for granted. Enjoy the moment. Live in the moment. I miss those days. That's probably something I was probably born to do. And should have kept pursuing it to the next level, but I didn't. That's probably another story we can do. But it's just embrace it, enjoy it, and work hard every day of your life and do the right thing.
Joe, were there defibrillators in the schools at that time?
Jim, I don't think so. At that time, there was anything like that. The medical supervision or the medical facilities were nothing like they are today. I think a lot of schools do have defibrillators, And then, of course, you got to make sure the batteries are charged and make sure you know how to use the darn thing, too. But I think with the 9/11 now, people, the first responders are so wonderful and get there so fast and also you don't want to do the wrong thing, too. If you do heart compressions and a person's, you can break the rib, there's a lot of things you got to watch out for, too. So it's a kind of catch-22. But I don't know if that would have made a difference or not. The first responders were there so fast, and it was such a terrible condition. I don't think anything would have been,
You've said in interviews that the image of the young lady at the school stays in your mind, that it's still there.
Every day. Every day. I can remember like it was yesterday. Certain parts of the season I don't remember that well. But
Yeah.
certain situations, I can remember exactly what happened. Whether I buried the other bit, the rest, the other parts of it, or just the way our minds work. But yeah, I vividly remember that all the time. Certain things I remember, like it was just right clear in my mind. I don't know how it affected the other kids that much either way, because I haven't really talked or seen the kids at this time. Again, I think the parents probably did a great job helping them go through it. Again, everyone handles it differently.
So there were priests and there were counselors and the parents and everybody.
Everybody was there, yeah.
To lock arms.
Praying,
It must have been extremely excruciating being at the funeral of such a young, previously very healthy person.
Yeah, I'll never forget. We're sitting in the church of St. Joseph in Danbury, and the wheel on the casket, and through down the middle of the church with the family trailing behind. I mean, it was just like, God, tough thing, and maybe positive. Maybe the other kids get to deal with that on that level, and it's a tough lesson to learn. I mean, it's just terrible.
Did it make you question your belief in God?
Not really. I'm not the most religious guy. I'm a Catholic person, but I mean, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, it didn't change any one way or the other. I still believe in God. I still believe in a higher power, but it didn't make me mad or anything. You just question why. Why her? Why us? And that happens to anybody when it gets cancer. You say, why me? Why why not somebody else? But there's no rule to that.
Did that event make you stronger, Joe?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
In what ways?
Emotionally, being able to handle adversity and just going through all that stuff, all that.
What would you say to our listening audience today, Joe, about your struggles and why you decided to bury it so deeply and not let it surface for so long? What advice? Tell somebody out there, Joe. That's the reason you came to tell your story.
Well, Jim, I think that you have situations as a parent or as a coach that you have to deal with. You have to deal with it. You have to address the issues that you have. There's an old saying, "Kill the monster when it's young." If you let things fester and let things get to a point, I think that happens a lot with addiction problems and all kinds of issues kids could have nowadays. You have to sit down and talk about it, and hopefully if you as a parent can't address it, maybe you can get a professional to help you with it. But don't just ignore it. That's the thing.
Don't just ignore it.
That's the thing. And hope it goes away, because most of the time it doesn't.
It's quite a burden you've been carrying for 27 years, Joe.
Yeah. I just, it's nothing compared to what, the poor Livolsi family had to go through, and all those early teammates and classmates.
Did you coach boys at any time, Joe?
No, the funny part about this story is I was teaching phys ed at Brookfield High School, and I was coaching football, and I had a full slate of boys basketball to officiate. And the day before girls basketball started there, the coach couldn't do it. And the kids are asking me, "You want to coach?" I'm like, "No, I'm not coaching girls. No, thanks." I'm like, I got my own problems.
What's it like coaching girls?
It turned out to be the greatest thing I've ever done, for the simple fact that they're just the athletes as boys are, but they're more coachable, But then you have the emotions you have to deal with. But the coaching part, they're like sponges. If you're a good coach and you know your stuff, they'll do whatever you tell them, and they'll try whatever you tell them, and they'll take it to the next level. Whereas guys have their own MBA, this and that. I think they have a little different agenda. But the girls are just smart. They play the game for the right reasons. They play because of the teamwork and the beauty of it, and they're not as selfish. They don't care if they score 5 points, and they're happy. What about that? They'd be happy if someone came out to bed to score 2 points. That was the beauty of it. The teamwork, and I was the kind of guy. When I played in high school, I never played in high school, even though I was on a team as a senior. I was really in tune with letting everyone get in there and play. We were playing a team I knew we were going to beat. I'd play all 12 kids in the first quarter. I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." We're up by 5 at halftime. Like, "Don't worry about it." Then third quarter, we blow them out. We ended up winning by 20. But the kids would get important minutes in the beginning of every game.
Absolutely.
They would feel important. And then when I needed them in a clutch or in a big situation, they're ready to go. They don't feel like, "Oh, we're up by 30, you throw them in there," and then it's a joke.
Okay.
I was really into tune with that, and really was cognizant of making everybody feel part of the team and making them feel important.
Terrific. If you or someone you know has a story and they would like to be featured on our show, you can find more information as well as my contact information on my Facebook page, God's DJ James Ransom Reed Jr. That's all the time we have for tonight's show. My thanks to my guest, Joe Appello, for sharing his story. If you want to contact me, please read that information. Our stories are as different as each snowflake and are as similar as and beautiful as the stars. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time, good night.